I just checking in. Basically, I just gotta reverberate. It's typically the same thing with them. They at my work, they're after me like I filled out some W-4s, some tax forms, and went all through this dance, going all across town to this office and this and that, and they lost these papers again that I am 100% sure that I filled out. I was, you know, play with my personal information that the state of Colorado is pretty troubled as to its identity and what it really means to have rights and things like that. I'm pretty disappointed in their ability to protect their own rights and the rights of others, but that's just the way we're going, I guess, as a culture, as the rights that we previously thought we deserved, we no longer think we deserve those rights anymore. People don't think they need that stuff anymore. It doesn't matter, you know. There's a lot of different reasons why. And then there's this other deal, this other chick at work, for whatever reason. It's kind of hard to explain, but for whatever reason, she says I didn't show up for a shift, and either I didn't get the call back, she didn't tell me to show up, or I did and she didn't record it, because as far as I know, I was there every time I was supposed to be. I don't recall going, oh, I'm just not going to work or whatever. I'm just not going in for a shift. So regardless of the quality of my work, regardless of my output, regardless of my character and the way I handle myself, it doesn't matter. I mean, people don't really need an excuse for the way that they are, for how they treat others. You treat others, they never were supposed to be allowed to use others' actions as an excuse for their own, or other people as an excuse. So they never use a person as an excuse. It's not people, it's the things that they do. It's never that person is the reason why I do this. It's that person did this and that's why I did that. But I'm way beyond having to explain grown folks things to people who are supposed to be grown folks. I've been listening to a lot of everybody's videos, trying to figure out what I should do, you know. Uh, what I mentioned to you is that sometimes people see chaos and they think of chaos and they think of all this random stuff. And sometimes that's another excuse people use, is they say, well, what I do doesn't really matter, so I can just do this. I can willingly break the law. I can just mistreat people. I can just do this and do that because I'm nobody and nothing I do matters. Those are the kind of people that they really are looking for, It, chaos is just a theory. This is all patterns. These are all patterns. These are all predictable patterns. I had listened to another guy doing a video, and he's right. It's nothing clever. It's just so ugly to see that people degraded to that point. It's very disheartening and frightening. People who thought they lived in a civil society of free thinking, people who could make decisions on their own, who understood their own rights, their own responsibilities, and were willing to protect those rights and the rights of others. But this is absolutely not the case. Yeah, and it really, chaos is just a theory. So as I see this stuff moving, I'm getting closer to understanding what I personally can really do to hit back at people who've destroyed, about 100,000, 150,000, maybe 200,000 people's lives for no reason at all, any way that they can. And how is that ever going to be okay with anybody? How is that ever? I mean, it's like what anyone would say or do about something like that is like, well, hell no, you know what I mean? I never intentionally hurt anybody in my life, I end up into it because I'm defending myself at any given time, and even then it's about a soft style and getting from one place to the next without getting in trouble or hurting anybody else or myself. And a lot of the people I'm watching, that's what the common thing that seems to be the same among all of them is that they think for themselves and they're good. And I know people are that like at large that because corruption is so deeply set that anyone who might do the right thing or might tell the truth is highly threatening to a culture that's corrupt from the foundation up. You know, of course they need their patsies, but that's all their leadership really is, or the people that they blame for all the awful things that they've done, and how they try to blame like a small group of people for these huge problems that only the people at mass could create consequences like that. There's no way that there's this small group of people that can do all this shit. You know, when you find yourself blaming a small group of people for your problems, like the Jews or the Masons or the Mormons or the Asians or the Chinese or whatever hateful fucking things you guys can fucking put in your nasty little skulls, these scum can put in their nasty little skulls, um, you know, it's just hatred. You know, it's that Charlie Manson thing that they come down with. Like with me, they like they try to do like based on some racist shit. Like you can tell part of the plan is to create strong divisions between the races, and then that, uh, you know, and of course to torment me by constantly doing the trauma loop shit to me, and it's constant, you know, and I lived with some terrible things. I've seen my loved ones hurt in very, very bad ways. And like I said, I don't have people around me like that anymore. I don't seem to care for anyone anymore because of what happened to the people that lived and tried to love me. What happened to the women in my life? What happened to them? Terrible things. I mean, they even stole my cat, dude. They even fucking stole my cat. And I know that poor cat, you know, all those people who love me were better off with me than they were without me, and their lives were ruined completely almost in every way for not having me in their lives. But once the attack started, it was relentless, and dude, it's not really to threaten females in front of me. It's not really to intimidate anyone, because if you're using intimidation, you're just trying to avoid confrontation. And I love confrontation. And once you use intimidation, and once someone uses intimidation, and I know they're doing it to avoid confrontation, I want the confrontation because I want it out. I want to see why they're doing it. I want to get to it. You know? Anyway, enough about chaos and patterns and how rotted out people's minds and hearts are. It's really saddening. It's really sad. But I know for sure what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to read just briefly from the Bible. So they drew near to the village. This is Luke 28. That's where I'm starting. Luke 24:28, excuse me. So they drew near to the village to which they were going. He appeared to be going further, but they constrained him, saying, "Stay with us, for it is toward evening, and the day is now far spent." So he went in to stay with them. He took the bread and blessed and broke it, the bread, and gave it to them. And their eyes were opened, and they recognized him, and he vanished out of their sight. They said to each other, "Did not our hearts burn within us while he talked to us on the road, while he opened to us the scriptures?" And they rose that same hour and returned to Jerusalem, and they found the 11 gathered together, and those who were with them, who said, "The Lord has risen indeed, and has appeared to Simon." Then they told what had happened on the road, and how he was known to them in the breaking of the bread. As they were saying this, Jesus himself stood among them, but they were startled and frightened, and supposed that they saw a spirit. And he said to them, "Why are you troubled, and why do questionings rise in your heart? See my hands and feet, that it is I myself. Handle me and see. For spirit has not flesh and bones, as you see that I have." And while they still disbelieved for joy and wondered, he said to them, "Have you everything here to eat?" They gave him a piece of broiled fish, and he took it and ate before them. Then he said to them, "These are my words which I spoke to you while I was still with you, that everything written about me in the law of Moses and the prophets and the Psalms must be fulfilled." Then he opened their minds to understand the Scriptures, and said to them, "Thus it is written that the Christ should suffer, and on the third day rise from the dead, and that repentance and forgiveness of sins should be preached in his name to all nations, beginning from Jerusalem. You are witnesses of these things, and behold, I send the promise of my Father upon you. But stay in the city until you are clothed with power from on high." Then he led them out as far as Bethany, and lifting up his hands, he blessed them. While he blessed them, he parted from them, and was carried up into heaven, and there turned to Jerusalem with great joy, and was continually in the temple blessing God. Yeah, amen, You, I don't expect anyone to be able to handle the stigma. Um, I don't think that after what's happened to people that they're going to have the capacity at all to deal with what's really going on. I think we're a long way down a dark path. The general public's been harmed in a serious way that leaves them pretty debilitated, but still able to work. And the more I watch, the more I know for sure. Like I said, I hope to keep working. There's nothing wrong with working. I mean, I've actually had to work. No one in my family's done anything but work for generations. It's just the way things are for us. But they are threatening my job. They're threatening my income as much as they can. Um, the nickel and diming of me too. Like whatever petty little thing they think will help. But the more I bless, the more I open my heart and show myself to people, the more likely I am to get through with those people without having them do or say anything to me that they know is like meant to hurt me as much as they, is meant to hurt me. And the things people say to me is meant to hurt me. And for some reason, like, last thing before I go is I'm scared again. I've been scared for a long time. I'd been hurt and just in such crazy shit. Nothing really scared me anymore. But now that I see that these people are like willing to sacrifice their own professionalism, people I thought that would have real concerns about what the consequences of doing those things are like willing to put their whole shit on the line just to be a dick for 5 minutes. Doesn't make any sense. It's gonna get worse. With me, it's probably gonna get worse because I've already said, to the guys that are running this and that are doing this shit, that the reason that they do that to me is because they're scared to talk to me man to man, and they're scared to approach me with anything that they've got. So they try to use other people to hurt me, and they try to use the terrible things that happen to my loved ones to hurt me, and if one could stole my cat and that. I don't think they can. I don't think they can maintain control. I think it's going to be a whole disaster. Nobody's going to get anything out of it but a heap of shit. But as to all the other people out there who've been targeted, once again, I love you, and I wish there was a better day for all of us. I love you. Bye bye.